Hi, I want to thank you for listening to my research and mural project on the urban heat island effect. This past summer, I created a mural on VCU's campus to illustrate this environmental risk. Before I talk about my project, I'm going to first explain what the urban heat island effect is. An urban heat island is an urban area having a disproportionate ratio of heat-absorbent infrastructure, such as asphalt and concrete, to its cooling counterparts, forest coverage, and vegetation. My favorite analogy to picture the urban heat island effect on a small scale is to think about the surfaces we walk on this summer. If we were barefoot, I think many of us would choose to walk on the cool grass rather than the burning, hot pavement surface. This is because pavement absorbs heat much faster than a grass lawn. On a small scale, this analogy is what contributes to the urban heat island effect. July 2023 was recorded as the hottest month in global history since 1880 according to NASA. With increasing temperatures influenced by anthropogenic climate change, the urban heat island effect is becoming more prominent of issue than ever. Often, like many other environmental issues, redlined neighborhoods bear the worst of these effects. This is a map from an article by the New York Times that shows the disproportionate temperatures formerly redlined neighborhoods in Richmond face during the extreme heat waves in the summer. Decades of racing housing policies have given these communities the least amount of access to temperature-cooling infrastructure and vegetation, causing these communities to bear the worst temperatures in the city. My interest in environmental risk communication motivated me to find a way to share what the invisible effect of the urban heat island looks like. I managed to create a visual format of what the urban heat island effect looks like with thermal infrared photography. In basic terms, thermal infrared cameras create images through detected heat. Thermal infrared cameras come with a variety of color palettes, but for this project, I chose the Iron Bow color palette. The Iron Bow palette displays the hottest temperatures as a whitish yellow and the coolest temperatures as a blackish purple. Here are some examples of the thermal infrared images of murals from previous research studies. The image on the bottom left was a mural created by the artist Eric Scottness. He used solar reflective paints as a medium for painting murals. The images on the right are murals in Richmond. They were captured by the University of Richmond and the Richmond Science Museum. Their study used thermal infrared cameras on local murals to research how different paint shades heat or cool walls. These images are interesting because the murals did not intentionally paint with thermal techniques in mind, but we can still see a thermal contrast in the captures based on the shades of colors they used. The question of what thermal infrared images could look like when the artist was purposely painting with temperature inspired me to do this project. In order to create a mural that purposely composited heat, I had to create a composition that communicated the factors associated with the heat island, but also have the ability to reflect or absorb heat in specified areas. This process took many iterations, but with the 3D compositing software Blender, I was able to create a detailed draft of what I wanted the mural to look like. My draft was not only for myself, but also for my proposal. Creating a draft illustrating my design was vital for proposing a site location and requesting grant money to fund this project. I created a separate draft of an edited composite to display what I wanted the mural to look like, captured with a thermal infrared camera. My project's research focused on using a thermal infrared camera to measure the thermal qualities of the paint. The three areas I'm measuring are mark-making techniques, tonal gradations, and how different paints, such as the solar reflective coating, compare to mural paints in reflecting and absorbing heat. I purposely painted with these properties to create temperature contrast in the mural to visually communicate the thermal differences of the two cities personified as figures. The two figures are contrasting, but their limbs interlock in a pulsing configuration representing the complex and chaotic ecological systems of humans and the environment. The red figure personifies an urban heat island. The figure is sweating, as in pain from absorbed heat. The surrounding environment of the red figure displays concrete infrastructure, asphalted roads, and no vegetation. The blue figure resembles a model on sustainable foundations, with extensive forest coverage, wildlife, and infrastructure rooted on garden roofs. The blue figure's temperature is cooled, and their posture is mostly at rest. However, their pulsing limbs interlock with the heat island, as a metaphor that the environmental system is complex and may change over time. Here are some videos I took demonstrating the thermal difference in the figures in the binary cities. An unexpected, surprising coincidence that I noticed about this site location was while painting this mural on the scaffolding, I found the surrounding landscape of Richmond aligning with the design cities of the mural. I could see the forest-city divide of the design align almost perfectly on the division of Richmond's vegetation and city half. This comparison was most apparent when we flew the drone over the parking deck right above the mural. I captured a still of the drone's footage and blew up the images of the divided landscape of Richmond City. On the left, we see the vegetation, and on the right shows city infrastructure. In the next few slides, I'm going to share the thermal infrared images I took of the mural, specifically the images displaying the temperature contrast I found using different tonal shades of paint. My main objective was to create these temperature contrasts between the two central figures. My goal was to highlight the cooler thermal difference in the blue figure representing a sustainable city against its heat island counterpart. In this comparison, we could see the red figure absorbing more heat with its yellow and white palette in the thermal capture. I measured the temperature average of both figures using the FLIR Ignite line measurement tool. The capture was taken on a 95-degree day on September 6th. The tool found an average temperature difference of 1.4 degrees Fahrenheit in the sustainable city figure compared to the urban heat island figure. The images taken with the thermal infrared camera confirmed our hypothesis. The darker shades of paint absorbed a significantly greater amount of heat than the lighter shades. Again, this is shown with the black paint representing the yellows of the iron bow palette, and the lighter blue windows displaying a cooler purple shade in the thermal infrared capture. While taking these thermal infrared photos, I was most excited by the amount of image clarity one could see with the temperature differences. Another interesting detail I recorded with the thermal infrared camera was the temperature difference between morning and afternoon. I took the first capture in the morning at 6:13 a.m. The sun had not come up yet, and you could see little to no temperature contrast in the image of the flower. The second capture was taken at 2:16 p.m., and it demonstrates how much of a difference sun exposure can make in the thermal imaging of the mural. The flower is fully visible in the afternoon capture because the wall absorbed the heat from the sun's exposure. This is also apparent in a time-lapse I took in January of how the heat of the mural fades from 12:50 p.m. to sunset. On the day it was taken, sunset was around 5 p.m. This time-lapse was taken on January 13th, 2024. The absorbed heat on the mural rapidly decreased during the last 10 minutes leading up to sunset, from 4:50 to 5 p.m. I plan to film another time-lapse next summer to contrast the winter's quick retention of absorbed heat on the mural's surface compared to the summer's longer heat retention. Here's a few more images showing the thermal contrast apparent with the tonal values of the mural. The other thermal technique I measured was painting with a clear solar reflective coating. The solar reflective coat I applied was a clear satin cool coat. Its formula contains tiny ceramic spheres, which helps the painted surface reflect the sun's rays and cool its surface temperature. Often, solar reflective paints are applied to buildings and pavement surfaces to reduce the amount of absorbed heat in urban areas. This is just one of the many solutions that can be used to reduce the urban heat island effect. Here are the before and after images of testing the solar reflective coating. The second photo on the right was taken after applying the coat to the sustainable city figure. The second photo was taken on a slightly hotter day than the first capture. However, despite the hotter outdoor temperature, the mural's surface in the area we measured had a 7.7 degree Fahrenheit drop with its solar reflective coating. A reason I created this mural was to make this type of data more visual and accessible to a wide audience, because if we only looked at the quantitative data, we'd be greatly limiting a population to spread this message to. So what's next for this project? One of my goals for this project was to have a full thermal infrared capture of the mural. But unfortunately, due to the site location being on a roof, I can only step back a short amount of distance. For the large scale of this mural, this limited distance prevents me from capturing the mural's full view. When designing this mural, I created a light to dark gradient in the background. I did this tonal gradient with hopes of seeing a thermal gradient in the capture. Due to the scale of the mural, I would need to take a full thermal infrared capture to view this temperature gradient. I have taken pictures from below the parking deck, but due to the limited pixels of my camera and the far distance of the mural, I cannot take high enough quality of a capture to view the full temperature difference. I have also attempted to composite multiple captures into a panoramic view of the mural, but unfortunately, due to the difference in time, compositing separate sections in the mural wouldn't be a very accurate display to what the entire mural's capture will look like. To solve this issue, my next plan for this project is to hire a thermal infrared drone pilot next summer to take an entire capture of the mural. My hopes are that a thermal infrared drone camera will be able to take a capture that is at high enough in resolution to display the entire composition. I want to thank my academic mentor and previous professor, Roberto Jamora. From the very beginning, my academic mentor and VCU Arts professor, Roberto Jamora, was deeply invested in the success of this project. He helped me with my project proposal, finding a site location, raise funding, budget, and set up scaffolding for this project. I couldn't have done it without him. Thank you for listening to my presentation. Here is a QR code for more information on this project as well as more thermal infrared captures. Thank you.